So Larry, it's August. The forecast outside has been true to what we normally expect, mostly warm and sunny. Seasonality
Few
of
thunderstorms.
a few of those too, and seasonality in real estate is also following its usual course. We saw a pretty slow month in July. Is that consistent with your experience?
Absolutely. We definitely had a slowdown as we were predicting heading into July. We had that little blip back in that May June window for about 30 days or so, where the market was pretty active. And July things fell off a cliff again. Comparable to last year, we're not that far off. I'll say price and sales are within 5% on average across the region, up or down, and mostly down, but and that's year over year. So we're pretty much in line with what we were predicting, what was going to happen this time of year. In all reality, man, we're right where we expected. The market is not on fire, but it's July. Like we said last month, this was the third slowest month of the year. We're now sitting in August, and it is following true to what we talked about, a third of the way through the month, and it is a pretty slow August so far. But again, in line where we should be for this time of the year. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that we were accurate last month in our predictions.
Yeah, August. I mean, you said it's going to be slow, second slowest month of the year, right? So
Yep.
it's I think those who maybe aren't in the industry sometimes look at the market at any given time and they look at it based on whatever factors might be affecting them in that moment. But the reality is what we're experiencing right now is completely normal. Seasonality in real estate, true to form, is going to be busiest in spring. You're going to get a lull in summer, and then you're going to pick up a little bit in the fall before tapering off through winter. And that repeats every year. Sure, the sales volumes may be different, but that pattern will be the same year after year, unless there's any kind of major anomalies. And we did have a major anomaly a few years back with COVID,
Yep.
and that resulted in obviously the market kind of taking off at a fevered pitch for about a year and a half period there. And but as I said, it was an anomaly. An anomaly. It was not normal, and for us to compare to that wouldn't make sense, frankly. I mean, if you compare to something that's not normal, you're not going to get good results.
No, I agree. I mean, John, you and I have talked about this extensively, and I think we're all guilty of it. I mean, we all look at the
Mhm.
highest point out there, and that's what we use as the benchmark to measure against. And definitely back in that late 21, early 22 period was where the market hit the highest volume of sales and highest price point. So
Yep.
naturally, that will become the barometer everybody measures against. But in all reality, if you take out that 12-month window of activity that really took off there for a period, if you took that out, we're right where we should be today. The market's actually
Mhm.
pretty healthy. It's fairly balanced for where it is. The length of days on the market might be a little bit longer. Inventory fluctuates a bit. There are still people out there who just simply can't afford to buy a home because of prices. But again, we had those problems back in the teens, 2018, 2019, there were people that are struggling to get mortgages to buy the houses they wanted. That became impossible in 21, 22 for some people, or they overbid, and now they're starting to feel the repercussions of making those moves. But in all reality, the market's right where it should be today. We just it's a natural reaction for us not to think that because we look at, like I said, the high point, the high water mark as the barometer.
Yeah, you talked about 2019 and certain condo markets, particularly in the GTA, Toronto area. Pricing on many of them are for the most part pretty close to where they were in 2019. But other property types, you look at detached and townhomes and so on, you don't have to rewind quite that far. You'd be looking back to like 2020, early 2021 before that kind of 12 to 18 month ramp up. But again, comparing to the barometer, or sort of the high water mark, so to speak, in early 2022, at this point, probably doesn't make sense. I mean, frankly, we're in mid to late 2026. I mean, usually we're comparing either to the previous month or to the same time last year, not
Yeah,
to a point 4.5 years ago.
no, exactly.
So,
Again, it's just to touch on what you just mentioned, condo pricing, housing, the condo market, sorry, in general, is sitting at 2019 prices. So we're
yeah,
pre-pandemic prices right now on condos, which means you've had 7 years of home ownership if you bought a condo in 2019 and you're sitting flat. People that bought in 21, 22 are underwater. People that bought in 22, 23 are either sitting flat or potentially up a little bit from where they were.
yeah,
So, again, the watermark moves based on your own personal
right.
experience. I mean, I got clients that have been in their homes for 30 years. While they're using 2022 as the watermark of where value should be, they're not upside down compared to the people that bought in 2022.
No, and
Right.
those folks are looking back to the year they bought, or if they want to, in terms of looking at current market performance, yeah, they looked at, the last few months compared to last year or the year they bought. But to
The
look
other
at
big
February 2022, it doesn't make any sense.
Now, John, you again to touch on what you just talked about, detached homes, semi-detached townhomes, they're all performing okay.
Hmm.
They're higher than that 2019 price point, like you
Yes.
said, maybe early 21, but they're not at the 22 price, of course, but they're higher than where they were in 19. Now, when you talk about the condo market, profoundly impacted condos. Foreign buyers, foreign investors, the creation or the invention of Airbnb,
Hmm.
and that style rental, all of that had a massive impact on the driver behind condo market, which never
Hmm.
had the same impact on detached and attached housing. So there's a bunch of different things to consider there throughout that whole process. But I believe, even just the discussions you and I have around it, we're more in a balanced market today if you were blind to 2022.
Yes.
If you didn't experience it yourself in 22, if you weren't a homeowner then, it wouldn't impact you as much today.
If
Because
2022 hadn't happened, uh,
you
we
wouldn't
wouldn't,
think any,
I mean, well, A, we
any
wouldn't be
more
talking
differently.
about this, but you wouldn't think the current market was all that bad. I mean, our months of inventory, a little high in a couple spots, but for the most part, again, like you talked about earlier in this video, we're looking at a relatively balanced market.
And I think even the markers that we measure the market in have changed because of 2022. What we would consider a balance versus sellers or buyers market, the parameters that have moved. We essentially moved the goalposts because the market changed. So we chased the market with those goalposts.
Yeah.
Should be the way around, right? We should have stayed firm. I mean, we still consider a seller's market anything, less than 2 months of inventory is considered a seller's market. When in reality, in 2019, that wasn't the case. It was 3 or more, 4 or more.
Yeah.
So we moved the goalposts, and then we started measuring there, and then the game changed. So I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, good market, bad market. I don't want to make it, looking for the silver lining. The reality is it comes right back to the same thing you and I preach over and over and over again, is that the right time to sell is when you're ready to sell, not when the market is, because you don't know when the market's going to change up, down, or
You
anyway.
got to work with the
You can't
market
live
you
with
got.
regret. I mean, I have people that have waited and they're no better off, actually worse off than if they had to sell previously. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, you're
yeah,
always best to work with what you got.
exactly. So, John, with all that being said, what are you doing right now? What's your message to your clients about real estate right now in August, what they should be doing?
Well, part of it I mentioned earlier was the fact that seasonality hasn't changed. We are coming up very quickly, frankly, to the second busiest time of the year, which would be fall, and that's usually once the kids are back in school, summer vacations are over, kind of regular life, so to speak, kind of picks up again, and that's usually around the second week or so of September.
Yep.
And if you're planning to make a move at that time, what I'm telling folks is that we want to use the time between now and then smartly, and that's so. August we know is slow, so why don't we use that time to do the paint touch-ups, do the decluttering, do the staging, whatever we have to do to get that property ready for say mid-September. Let's do that now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you are thinking about selling, and you want to do it based on seasonality, again, I tell people sell when you're ready to sell, not when the season, you feel you need to sell. Because the last 2 years we haven't seen a bump in the fall market. But again, you and I compare things year over year. We don't compare things day over day.
Right.
So when we look at the fall of 25 and then the fall of 24, there wasn't a massive difference there in activity. So, but if we looked at July and we looked at September, there was a difference. So
Of
if you
course.
are thinking about selling, now it's the time to do the legwork. Like you don't wake up on a Monday and say, I want to sell my house on Friday and then think you can have everything done, unless you live in a model home, which I don't. Um, you got to put some time into it and you got to do some work and you got to get it ready. Now is the time to be doing that when the weather's good, when the market's low, and be prepared for when the kids go back to school and mom and dad say, okay, now it's time to go and start looking at where we want to go. Let's,
I
we
mean,
got
the
to be able
reality
to.
is mid-September is only a month away, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you tell me that? But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, right now, my message is the same. Don't expect anything serious to happen in August. There are homes still going to sell. Don't get me wrong. There was 3 homes so far reported today on the market that sold over this past weekend in Oakville. But reality says you're going to see a bit of a bump in September, and things
yeah.
are right now. Everybody's away on vacation, right? It's the last couple of weeks of summer. The CNE's coming up. The people are at the cottage. Soon going to be school shopping for the kids, and once that's all done and behind us, then they can start getting serious about what the next move is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're looking to move, I agree. Start getting ready now.
Well, and I think on that note, we could probably wrap this one up. I think we've touched on the market, we've touched on what people should be doing, and I would encourage anybody who has questions to reach out to myself or Larry. Uh, we're using this next little time as well to reach out to all of our clients and see how we can help. So
Absolutely. So let's see what happens with the rest of August. I suspect my prediction is we'll be pretty flat, if not down a little bit from what I've seen so far. But I don't expect any big stories coming up for this month when we report next month. But let's hope we see a little bit of a push in September.
yeah. Well, until then, happy preparation.
All right, bud. Enjoy the rest of summer.
See ya.
Bye.